Madam, you can start.
Okay. Fine. Good evening. This is Geeta Mallikarjunan, CEO of HMA, and on behalf of Hyderabad Management Association, I welcome you to the lecture meeting on the topic, How and Why of ESG by Mr. Pradeep Ramakrishnan, General Manager, SEBI. I welcome our MC members, past presidents, advisors, and all the HMA members who have registered for this program, and other members also who have registered, who are on this platform and also viewing us live on Facebook. I take this opportunity to welcome our Vice President and Convener of lecture meetings, Mr. Jaivan Naidu, our Secretary, Mr. Chandrasekhar, our speaker for today's session, Mr. Pradeep Ramakrishnan, and request our President, Mr. Ramchandar, to take the meeting forward.
Thank you very much, Geeta ji. A very good evening and warm welcome to all present today and to all our August members, friends of HMA, my colleagues, Jaivan Naidu Garu, Vice President, Chandrasekhar Garu, Secretary, Mohan Garu, our Treasurer, Devendra Reddy Garu, Joint Secretary, and all other esteemed members. I also welcome some of the past presidents who are present today, whom I'm not able to see really. And also I welcome our guest of today, Sri Pradeep Ramakrishna, General Manager at SEBI, who is considered to be an authority on ESG. We have heard him earlier and felt his knowledge is always useful in emerging focus on ESG. I also see a few of my respected friends who are there, like Surendra Reddy Garu and others, Murli Garu. I really feel very privileged for your kind presence and supporting HMA in its endeavors. I also thank our office and welcome Geeta ji, our CEO, who does a lot of back-end work. Today's program, as you know, is a continuity in bringing our lecture program series to all our August members, the speakers of high stature and experience. Incidentally, today's speaker has also done a similar role, a senior role in SEBI, and is in monitoring of ESG, earlier called as BRSR, etc., and all that, on sustainability, sustainable reporting. This topic on ESG is new to many of us, and I'm sure we will have a good learning experience at the end of the day. HMA in its endeavor to keep preaching management and management concepts across all spheres has been making sustained and increased efforts to push such knowledge through several of our programs on a continuous basis. This organization is almost nearly 60 years old and has been in succeeding years made continuous efforts to be known as an organization which is valuable, for which I always give credit to the past presidents and our governing bodies who have continuously made efforts to see that the organization moves a rung higher every year. Several programs targeted at students and managers are being taken up, and I'm happy to mention that of the current body, executive body, personally visited almost a dozen top colleges in Hyderabad and also a few colleges in Vijayawada and a few corporates. The idea was to make them understand what we can do and what is their requirement so that we can customize ours to their requirements. In this endeavor, we had a tremendous response and quite a good number of them have been showing interest to see that we keep such programs on a sustained basis. And we as HMA has an advantage of bringing best of speakers because HMA has got that aura. Even IMA at the apex level did recognize this HMA's efforts, and today we are in the governing council of HMA for the second successive year. We shall continue to do our agenda fully as decided and also seek your cooperation and support to strengthen HMA. In this context, I see quite a good number of members present today. I'm happy that though they are not members, they are here with us. I will only make an appeal to them, please join HMA and strengthen us. And to all August members who are sitting across, to kindly bring in 1 or 2 members so that the strength of HMA will get doubled. The organization becomes more vibrant by people like you who can keep on adding value to our HMA's activities. Coming to today's program, I feel very happy that we have Mr. Pradeep with us to talk on ESG. As I said earlier, it is a subject of great importance. Everyone, be it in business, industry, college, personal, everywhere, they look at the environment, the social responsibilities, and on the good governance. By sticking to these, it is expected that we will be leaving a cleaner globe to the future generation. Still, many aspects have to be addressed especially role towards employment, society, and corporate governance. I've recently read a book on this subject by a topic called as Outlast by Dr. Mukund Rajan, and that the Indian companies too are in the forefront that may get enlarged not only from the Tatas and the Marico, which are probably stand out. Maybe Pradeep Garu will tell a little more about that. Tatas believed in giving back to society. Maricos have gone a step ahead and said that the salaries will be linked to the ESG performance. So, I mean, there is awareness, there is sort of a good look being given by big corporates. But I don't know how exactly it's happening in the smaller organizations where sticking to such type of responsibility or regulations, how will it really be able to impact their bottom line or the top line? And I think government has got a bigger role to play in this. The concern about global warming, GHG, pollution control, Kyoto Protocol, Paris, all big names that we talk about are very significant. And government role, I think, I'm sure, will also be addressing to all this. Perhaps we'll get a great insight of all these aspects at the end of the session after listening to Mr. Pradeep. It also said, it is said that ESG enhances the performance of a company. Good governance automatically brings in better performance. I think probably this is how it is looked at. And probably responsibility to the society, giving back to society also adds value. I think this is how I think the companies look at. And I'm sure maybe Pradeep Garu will tell that at SEBI also they really project these things to make investors bring in the money to look at those companies which are really doing well. I'm sure we'll have a good time listening to him. And at the end of the day, I'm sure we'll going back with quite a good amount of learnings. I now, with these few words, I thank once again Pradeep Garu and all the members who are present today for the August presence. As I usually appeal, please put your questions if at all anything is there in the chat box. And at the end of session, I now hand over to this session to Mr. Jayavan Nadu, our Vice President, who will probably talk about the credentials of our speaker, Sri Pradeep Ramakrishnan. Thank you once again, and once again, I wish you all the best, and namaste. Thank you.
Good evening to all the participants, to the President, Mr. Ramchandra Garu, all the members of the MC, Speaker of the Day, Sri Pradeep Ramakrishnan ji, and all the past residents and students present in the meeting. So, to give a short introduction, Sri Pradeep Ramakrishnan is a company secretary from the Institute of Company Secretaries of India, and he has earlier worked with Madras Fertilizers in the year 1997-98, and later on he has been with Kothari Petrochemicals Limited till the year 2002. And since the year 2002, he has been with SEBI and has been handling many important portfolios, which also include the Department of Debt and Hybrid Securities. Welcome, sir, to this meeting. I request you to kindly address the gathering.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I'm happy to always come before HMA because the audience is very receptive. And I should thank Mr. Ramchandra and Geeta ma'am at the outset for welcoming me. Thank you so much. And thanks for coming after office hours and, particularly the day after Deepavali. So I will start with traditional Telugu greeting, Antiriki Namaskaram. So, and let me just start. So I had spoken about ESG last time with the HMA. So, I was just wondering what is it that I can do different, because there's no point in speaking the same thing, right? So I was just wondering what is it that I can do something. So it so happened that ever since I spoke to you last time, I have considerably upgraded the presentation with a lot of new happenings. As we speak, in a very few weeks, we are going to have the COP27. It is a conference of parties number 27. In 2020, so we had the COP26, where India and China managed to, after a lot of discussions, we managed to use the word phase down instead of phase out of certain fossil fuels. So this is very, this is something which is very pertinent at this point in time. So without wasting much time, let me just get into the presentation. So today I will be talking about ESG, and the G part is something which I think a lot of people have talked on a lot of. So I'll focus a lot on E and S because they are the new things that have come into play. But today, what I'm going to do is that I will not be focusing on what SEBI has done. Of course, there are a couple of 2-3 slides. But what I want the members to know, and what I normally want people to know, is that, see, this ESG today, as it exists, is something which a lot of us have not completely cracked what exactly is ESG? Because what is ESG today is not ESG tomorrow. That is how dynamic the definition is. It keeps changing, but particularly because of a lot of geopolitical factors. Like, for example, you take the recent Russian-Ukraine war. Whatever Europe was getting as fuel from Russia is something which has been stopped. So suddenly now nuclear fuel has become green. Okay, and many countries have started their coal plants again. So then the definition of ESG accordingly, their institutional investors have changed. And if you look at a lot of Western media, if you've been following, you will be finding very interestingly a lot of articles against ESG. So which means it is a very convenient thing which a lot of people are also using to for their own needs, which is something which we have to keep in mind. It's something of paramount importance today. With this background, let me just start as to what exactly is ESG. So this is what I'm going to talk about today: the greenhouse gases rating, etc. Then I'm going into world regulatory initiatives. I'm talking about what SEBI has brought in recently. Just a couple of months back, we brought out a consultation paper on green and blue bonds. Okay, I'm handing the consultation paper, so I'll also talk a little about that, so that our aim is to increase the green bond market. So that is one thing, and then about BRR and BRSR also. Now, as we all know by now, a lot of us know, in fact, this has even become part of college curriculum also. Like, what is ESG? So ESG is like environment, society, and governance. So what are you doing for the environment? What is doing for society? If you look at the Companies Act 2013, the first time a Companies Act in India, so we have had Companies Act in 1934, we have had a Companies Act in 1956. Okay, and we have 1913, 1956, and then we have had a Companies Act in 2013. The 2013 Companies Act, for the first time, if you look at section 166, it includes the words, the board of directors shall be responsible for preservation of the environment. This is the first time the Companies Act is included. It is also recognized the fact that this is important. And as far as society is concerned, that is something which I'm going to explain as we go ahead. Now, let us see, from where did this whole thing start? Why has suddenly why is everyone talking about responsible investing? Why not just investing? See, if you just go back in history, the concept of the joint stock company, you must have heard about this famous case of Salmon versus Salmon and Co. Limited, where they have said a company is different from its individuals. The company is different from individuals. A company is a separate legal entity, whereas the individuals are separate. So this is something you should have heard. This is the concept of a joint stock company. It started around the 1600s, around in the early Europe. Okay, and if you look at, there are two types of companies which have permeated to various other parts of the world. One is the Eastern Europe. In Eastern Europe, and particularly and Eastern Europe as well as Austria and Germany, because Germany technically is part of Western Europe. Now, Eastern Europe plus Austria and Germany, they have a two-tier board. Okay, you have an executive board and you have a supervisory board. This is also something which is a legacy issue, which has been there for a long time. Then Western Europe and then US and Australia and Singapore and other countries, and of course India, we have a single board. Okay, so this is also one of the things of joint stock company that has evolved. Now, ever since the concept of joint stock company came around the world, it all started, then it became who is going to invest in these companies. So it started with my own money, then it started with borrowing, then it started with financial institutions, then all those things started coming in. Then slowly people started taking money from, the company started taking money from the people. So once you receive money from the people, when it is not debt, what exactly it is? So that is when the concept of share capital came about. Once you take share capital, what is it in for me? So I'm going to declare a dividend. That is my only earning. I may declare bonus. That's other corporate action, which I will be earning. What is the third thing? Okay, I can sell my share. I'll appreciate, it'll appreciate, and I'll be able to gain more money. So this whole concept of wealth maximization started getting stuck with shares, okay, share capital. If I own shares, then I'll be able to sell it in the market and then make more money. That is the easiest way. And that is the precise reason why SEBI also came into existence, right? Now, the whole thing about the share market, the whole concept, the colloquial thing of share market existed because of that. So ever since the days of Adam Smith, wealth maximization was always the thing that was associated with share capital. Okay. So essentially, what is it? I put in 10 rupees, I get 15 back, I get 20 back. All these things are nothing but an indicator of a good stock. As long as I am able to get more money than what I have invested, then I am supposed to have made good money. Okay. I've earned wealth on whatever it is. Okay. This is how the whole thing came about. But slowly, after a point in time, see, I'll tell you one thing about Maslow's needs. Okay, the Maslow's needs is something which you must have all read about in management. Okay, what is Maslow's needs? It says, first, a man wants the most basic of needs. What are the basic needs? You have one shelter, food, clothing. They are the basic needs. Then once they are covered, then you have security needs. Then you have social needs. Finally, on top, after everything, you have got something called self-actualization needs. What are self-actualization needs? Where people turn philosophical. People are able to give away some part of their wealth. People are able to say that, okay, let me have something more responsible. I don't want to get money out of killing someone, doing some wrong for someone. That is from where all these responsible investing started. Now, if you see, the concept of responsible investing was coined by the United Nations in the year 1980. But before that, there are two important things that have happened. The word global warming, the term global warming, which you must have all seen, which we have all heard unto death. I mean, we've been hearing every other day. That was coined in the year 1975, because when they found that, okay, the earth is actually heating up. See, ever since the 1800s, after the Industrial Revolution, it started spreading to a lot of parts of the world. In India also, the textile revolution started. After independence, we had Green Revolution, we had our own Industrial Revolution, we had the license Raj dismantled, because of which a lot of industry started coming up. And it all led to so many things, a lot of good things and a lot of bad things. Okay. So then in around 1979, the word climate change was coined. And I'll give you a very interesting analogy as to why global warming is not being used today, but climate change is used. Have you seen it? Have you seen how many news channels use the word global warming today? Very few. In fact, they use the word climate change. How did the whole thing come about? Because they found if you use the word global warming, people, it evokes a lot of stronger emotions. Okay, as opposed to the word climate change, which seems a little passive, because global warming seems that something is burning around you, right? Okay, whereas climate change is a little passive. So this is the thought process behind these two things. However, the whole thing, you should see this movie called Vice, the Hollywood movie called Vice. This is about an American vice president called Dick Cheney. Okay, and this is about he was a vice president, so that is why they call the movie Vice, and it has got an alternative meaning also. If you see the movie, you will be able to know. I don't want to break the suspense. So he was the person in the US, he said that, why don't we start using the word climate change more as opposed to global warming? Now, how is your thought fashioned? How is my thought fashioned? All our thoughts are fashioned by things around us, the media, right? You look at you look at Indian Express, you look at the Hindu, you look at the Times of India, you look at regional newspapers, you look at other newspapers, international newspapers. But imagine if all of them have a similar thread, your thought process also starts getting manufactured accordingly, right? So what was once global warming suddenly has been replaced by climate change in all these newspapers. If you look at Financial Times, if you look at Economist, if you look at Wall Street Journal, all these things, if you look at all these things, the word climate change is used. So that is what the government, the US government wanted their citizens and also the world also to do. So today, if you see the word climate change is only used, global warming is absent, conspicuously absent, right? It is there, but it is not as much. So the evolution continued. And in the year 2006, the word ESG, the term ESG was first used in the principles of responsible investment of the United Nations. Again, see, the United Nations also has this very important thing called the Sustainable Development Goals. You know, Sustainable Development Goals, which have been coined, are a set of around 17 parameters, which each country must take care of so that it can progress as, in social and economic factors. You know, there are certain things on which we grade ourselves: water, sanitation, women, children, education, all these things. So this is all part of your social aspect and environmental aspect, which got mingled in this whole ESG thing. Now, whenever any big thing starts, okay, there will always be a need to push it, right? How today, if you look at outside, if you want to buy an electric car, the waiting period for an electric car is 10 months. Waiting period for a petrol car is only 3 to 4 months. Sometimes you can even get in 2 months. How did this happen? How did this change happen? This change happened because suddenly people thought two things. One is people became wealthy enough to buy an electric car, because an electric car is costlier than an ICE car. ICE means internal combustion engine. Okay, it is costlier than a normal petrol car, but still someone is willing to put in that premium because of two reasons. One is the cost of maintenance is almost nil. Secondly, the cost of running the car is also less. However, but this is a movement. Slowly, I look at my neighbor, I look at someone else, I look at an organization, and I look at all those things, and it has a demonstration effect on me. Then I'll say that if you can put that 1 or 2 lakhs more, I can also get that electric car. Why can't I do it? So similarly, in case of investing, from a wealth maximization notion that I was talking about, it moved to responsible investing only because of institutional investors. So these institutional investors, over a period of time, they said that, okay, let us move away from a normal investing and to something called responsible investing. Okay, wealth maximization is good, but wealth maximization should also come at a responsible cost. So that is from where the concept of responsible investing took about, okay, took wings. Now, what exactly is responsible investing? I have to ensure that while I invest in something and I'm getting a return on it, it should not be at the cost of the society or the environment. This, in very simple terms, is responsible investing. I am being responsible in my investing. Why? Now, let us just go back and let's look at what is this whole global warming that we are talking about? What is this greenhouse gas? What are all these things? Now, if you see, we have sunlight. Thankfully, one of we are living a planet which is a very beautiful planet, and it gets sunlight, right? 30% of the sunlight which is falling on the earth is reflected back to the space, which means that 70% of whatever falls on the earth is absorbed. It's absorbed by land, oceans, atmosphere, and this is one of the things that heats up the planet, right? Obviously, the main source of our heat is the sun. Okay, then the heat again is radiated up, and then what happens is this is known as the infrared light. This infrared light, 10% goes back to space, 90% is again absorbed by these atmospheric gases and comes back to Earth. It is just that up and down, just like a tennis match, it goes up and down, and finally it causes greenhouse gases. Now, there are 2 types of greenhouse. This is a natural greenhouse effect. Secondly, there is also a artificial effect. Now, what is the artificial effect is what you and I are creating. Okay, what are all these? Carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, water vapor is natural. Now, the fluorinated gases, just like you drive a car, you drive a moped, it comes out, there are this fuel, you burn charcoal, we burn crackers, we burn so many things. All these things result in the greenhouse effect. Now, essentially, it is nothing but burning of fossil fuels. You cut down trees, and then you desilt your oceans, etc., your coral, etc., takes a walk. These things add to your greenhouse effect. This is what they normally call as greenhouse gases and the greenhouse effect. Essentially, in simple terms, it just heats up the planet. Now, why are greenhouse gases important? Greenhouse gases are important because you have to understand what exactly. And secondly, we all, in a way, contribute to greenhouse gases. Now, let us look at how the government has to gain because of these greenhouse gases. Today, 20% of the revenue for the central or state government, okay, which is around 3% of the of GDP, comes from tax on petrol and diesel. What are the 2 important avenues for of revenue for the government, for any state government or even central government, for any state government, for example? One is alcohol, one is liquor, one is petrol, right? These are the 2 things which they earn the most because these things are steady source of income. It will never go down. It will always be up. So any amount of taxes, just imagine the costlier the cigarettes are, the costlier the alcohol is, still it gets sold. Yesterday, I read a very interesting news item. Just 3 days of Deepavali break, Tamil Nadu government has earned around 710 crore of income on alcohol. Okay, which is why, just keeping things in perspective, you can understand as to how important this amount is. Now, if you look at India's total amount of, how much we have installed, the installed capacity of power is around 400 gigawatt. Okay, out of which coal is almost 60 to 70%. The renewable is the rest. Okay, and however, in case we have to go to net zero, then we have said, what have we promised? We have promised ourselves and the world that we will reach to net zero by 2070. And if we have to go to 2070, you have to ensure that there is that amount of renewable energy, and we ensure that we reduce fossil fuels, which means that in case of electric vehicles, 1/3 of the electric vehicles should be 1/3 of the vehicles on the road should be electric vehicles by 2050. And if we have to go to net zero, a more ambitious target will be almost 40%. In short, your renewable energy sources should increase from 15% to 60%, which is a very ambitious thing. Just like we say, we want to be a $5 trillion economy in 2025. It is as ambitious a target as getting net zero by 2070, which is like sort of 50 years from now. Just imagine how important is that assessment. So you look at carbon neutrality. So what are the other things? So what is exactly carbon neutrality? Obviously, the amount which you emit and the amount which are going to be counterbalanced, and removing things which you do to remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. It has to be neutral. That is what you call as carbon neutrality. Now, there are obviously different nations which have different ambitious targets. The Nordic countries have a lot of ambitious targets, and certainly, Europe has got, many European nations have got ambitious targets. They even have got movements around it. Okay, you must remember Greta Thunberg, one of the climate activists who became very famous, when protesting against climate change and all that. So in the European Union, for example, they've said we'll become carbon neutral by 2050. Sweden has gone a step ahead and said that why wait for the European Union? We'll become carbon neutral by 2045. Okay, which means a lot of indirect and direct subsidies to fossil fuel will be phased out by 2025. In fact, United Kingdom has said that by 2030, we will ensure that there are no electric vehicles on the road which are sold afresh. Only the old vehicles that are sold will be there, which means that every single vehicle, passenger vehicle that is sold on in United Kingdom after 2030 will only be electric, which is a very ambitious target. Particularly, no one thought of this whole geopolitical factors which would come after because of this Ukraine war. Now, everyone says that, okay, now let us look at, we have to reduce, we have to do this. Now, just in perspective, people always say there are three types of lies: white lies, and statistics. However, if we have to understand something, we always need statistics. Without statistics, without data, we are nowhere. We will not be able to come to a conclusion, because if we have to compare my assessment, where Pradeep was last year, where Pradeep is this year, there is always going to be some numerical thing on the basis of which I'm going to rank myself, right? So if you look at the slide, it shows how many people which countries are the biggest polluters in the world. You look at US, UK, the entire European Union, etc. They are the biggest polluters. As you can see, it's there, right? But the entire China, the entire European Union, and the US, just minus the UK, contribute to 50% of the world's pollution, which is a very, very huge number. Okay, and if you look at Africa and India, contribute to only 11%. That does not mean that we can pollute more. What I'm trying to say is that just to look at things in perspective, when people say, why are you not doing what Europe does? Two things. One is we are a developing economy. Second is we are not polluting as much as what they claim to do. They pollute much more. Okay, and if you look at the entire 150 years, the past 150 years, India has just contributed to 4% of the world's total pollution, which is a very good thing as far as this country is concerned, considering we are almost the largest populated country in the world, almost the largest. Okay. However, as I told you, we are moving towards net zero, and by 2030 also we have had another ambitious thing that we are going to reduce, by carbon intensity, etc. Now, if you look at emissions, what are we talking about as emissions? What is emissions? Because if I am going to say I will pollute less, how do I know that I'm polluting more? I will be able to pollute less only when I know what I'm polluting. For this, there are three types of measurements. One is called scope 1 emissions. Second is scope 2. Third is scope 3. Scope 3 is the least important of the lot. Scope 1 and scope 2 are obviously very important. Even today, the Business Responsibility and Sustainability Report, BRSR, it says that you have to disclose scope 1 and scope 2 compulsorily. And scope 3 is a leadership indicator. If you want, you disclose. Why? Because scope 1 and scope 2 impact immediately. They are like manufactured fuels. If you take an oil company, for example, you take a company that manufactures ACs, which is going to emit CFC. Earlier it was now HFC. Earlier it was CFC. So these are all cement manufacturing companies which directly emit fumes. Like, for example, companies which directly release pollution into the water, like, for example, the Yamuna, the Ganges, so many other big rivers that we have. In a place called, in Tamil Nadu again, there is a river called Noyal. The entire river became dirty just because of the polluting industries, textile industries. Okay, so these are all things that happen everywhere. Second one is when you use electricity, steam, heat, which is purchased, which you use. Like, for example, there's a light burning on top of me. That is scope 2 emissions. The last one is where I generate waste, like paper. I throw paper. Okay, I send things to what thing I use for coffee. I use this aluminum sachet. I tear it and throw it. The third one, business travel. I travel on business. All these things are scope 3, which are the least. Which is, in fact, if you look at 1, 2, 3, the ones which I can immediately banish are scope 3, because I can ensure that I can travel less. I can, probably not drink out of a plastic bottle. I don't remove plastic packaged water and things which, like, for example, your plastic trays and other things which I can remove. Now, the other thing is when people talk about pollution and ICE vehicles, one petrol vehicle has 300 spare parts. One electric vehicle has 12 spare parts, which is why it is easy to run an electric vehicle. There is almost zero maintenance. You not every 6 months, every 6 months to 1 year, when you send your petrol car for servicing, you need not send your electric car for servicing at all. In fact, the only thing your electric car needs to be looked at is your battery, which is why they give a 7-year warranty on the battery. However, be as it may, what are the advantages and disadvantages of electric? Because today, the main thing which we all have to understand is, when I pose a problem, when I pose a question saying that this is a problem, I also have to understand that I have to give an answer. Right? There is no point in just this whataboutery or just questioning. Questions are of no use. Let us look at the electric vehicle components, and the 4 most important components of an electric battery today are lithium, which is there even in our mobile phones. Like all mobile phones, battery is all lithium, right? Nickel, manganese, and cobalt. Now, what is important here is we have to understand is, first is there is a potential shortfall of the global mining capacity, which I will show you in the next slide as to why it is. And presently, the replacement for all these ICE vehicles are lithium, which I told you that is the only thing that we have found out so far. Though countries like China are exploring sodium ion, which might be an alternative to lithium ion, but that is still some years away. Okay, and then there is a decrease in that cobalt demand, but there is an increase in your lithium demand. If you see this, we are expecting close to 250 million electric vehicles on the road by 2030 around the world. If you look at, even when you drive on Indian roads, now you can easily see the electric vehicles, particularly scooters. Now many individuals have started buying scooters, right? Electric scooters. We find people buying electric scooters because there are no famous manufacturers. You may have a Hero, you may have a TVS, etc., but you may have an Ather, but there are a lot of smaller manufacturers manufacturing electric vehicles today, because there is not too much of technology there, except that you need a battery. So you have a lot of, second tier, third tier electric vehicle manufacturers who are ruling the roost today. Now, people always talk about electric vehicles, right? Now we are saying electric vehicles are the way forward. Now let us see, are they the way forward? Okay, like I told you, spare parts is less, no emission, no noise. Yes, these are all plus points. Charging, what is the problem? Charging is slow. A Tata Nexon vehicle, initially that was launched, they claimed a range of around 312 kilometers. Okay, but the average real world thing is around 170 to 180 kilometers. Okay, which means you can't go, you can go probably, I don't know whether you can even go from Hyderabad to Vijayawada. You have to charge 2-3 times, right? Can you do it? You can't do it. It's not possible. I can maximum drive it within Hyderabad. That is why it is a city car. So even now they have released a new version called Nexon Max, which gives 100 kilometers more. That also does not take me anywhere. So the biggest problem as far as electric vehicles is concerned is the charge factor. It does not have a real world mileage. Okay, it does not stand. That is one big issue. And second thing is the number of charging stations are very less. Imagine if you're on the highway and the vehicle battery thing drops down and you're almost just 20-30% and your mind will be just looking at where is the next charging station, right? Whereas in case of petrol, you have so many petrol stations. We have used to petrol, just fill diesel, just keep on going. Whereas electric vehicles, that is another issue. Secondly, is there are certain housing societies who are still against electric charging. You don't get that charge everywhere, because if I buy an electric vehicle, they will install an electric meter in my thing and it has to be connected to my electric meter. Okay, that whole charging thing, that setup also takes some time. So, but today, the world recognizes electric vehicles as the only alternative to ICE vehicles. We have not found anything else. So the government has brought something called FAME scheme. What is the FAME scheme? Faster adoption of manufacturing of electric vehicles. Presently, around almost 5 lakh electric vehicles have been supported till July 22 by the government. However, now if you see, there are a lot of problems as far as I told you, there are a lot of unknown new manufacturers. It has led to a lot of scooter fires. You must have read it. Every second or third day, we are finding some electric vehicle getting fired. Yesterday, unfortunately, someone died. Last week, someone died. A little boy died when the electric vehicle was getting charged because it burst into flames. So that is something which is still, that there is a risk that is still around. However, we feel the government and of course a lot of people around, we also feel that at least 80% of all the sales should be electric vehicles by 2030. Again, a very ambitious target. 8 years from now, but you never know. Things will change. So many things can change. And we also expect around 3,000 public charging stations and 1 million electric vehicles to be around. See, today, out of 30 states in India, 17 states already have dedicated electric vehicle policies, which means that they also have brought in something called the vehicle swapping policy. Now, be as it may, though we may talk so much about the electric vehicles, what are the problems associated with electric vehicles? It is something which you all have to know. Half of the world's cobalt. Now, as I told you, there are 3 important components of, if you leave out manganese, there are 3 important things: cobalt, nickel, and lithium. Half of the world's cobalt comes from Congo. Okay, Indonesia, Australia, and Brazil, they are the lions. They make up a lion's share of nickel. Now, there is something called the lithium triangle in South America, which comprises of Bolivia, Chile, and Argentina. They hold 75% of the world's lithium. So these are the only sources. After some point in time, if these sources run out, then we are left holding the baby. We don't even know what to do with the present ones, even in production. You don't know what will happen 7 years because the average age of a battery is 7 years in an electric vehicle. So what will happen after that? That is something which we don't know. Which is why today the guarantee on an electric vehicle's battery is 7 years. The other problem is negligible portion of the electric vehicle batteries are recycled. Okay, though the industry feels that over a period of time when the industry itself matures, then there will be better ways to recycle them, and probably a lot more portion of the electric vehicle batteries will get recycled. But that's then an evolving thing. Okay, and today China is dominating the global electric value supply chain, and globally governments are also creating their own thing. What is the issue? Because when the whole Ukraine war has become a huge lesson for a lot of other countries, particularly bigger economies. If you are going to get we have one country as a source of everything for you, one fine day when that country becomes your enemy, you are left holding the baby. You don't even know what to do. Today, Europe is fighting because 60% of Europe's gas comes from Russia. And in few countries like Czechoslovakia, the entire 100% of the gas comes from Russia. So over a period of time, overnight, if you're going to stop it, where are you going to bring your fuel from? Which is why the last 2-3 weeks, there have been riots in France because there is no petrol. There is a lot of problems. So if you see, there are a lot of civil unrest going on because the government is not able to. On one hand, you are against Russia. You're saying that, okay, I have a problem with them. I have an ideological problem with them because they are fighting with Ukraine because Ukraine wanted to join the NATO, which in turn is my own team. But on the other hand, what is the alternative that I have that people don't know? Now this problem is going to creep to Germany and then over a period of time to United Kingdom also, because the winter is coming. In the next 2-3 months, it's going to get colder and colder in Europe, and then they will have to find sources of heat, which is why now a lot of European nations have started reopening their nuclear power stations and coal stations, which was like unheard of some time back. Over a period of time, all the big intelligentsia of the world, particularly the Western intelligentsia, has now started treating nuclear fuel as green, which was not there till some time back because it suits them, right? It suits them. That is the reason why they're doing it. Now, again, as I told you, one was the battery issue. Secondly, what are the social issues because of electric vehicles? That is the other thing which you have to see. See, the purpose of this presentation is to give a perspective, okay? And I'm just going to tell you the positives and negatives. So I'm not going to say that I'm taking this side or that side, because ultimately we as humankind have to benefit, right? We need to understand what exactly suits us and what are the other things what are the things that are going to help us with. Now, if you look at...
Sir, Pradeep Garu,
yeah.
Can you make this slide full screen? The words are very small. It's very important information, what I feel.
No, it is in full screen only.
But we are getting half screen here. Full screen.
I can share this presentation with you later, maybe.
Okay, sir. Okay. Okay, sir. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. Sorry, because it is showing full screen here, and I've shared the full screen only today.
Okay, sir. No problem. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay. Now let us look at what are the problems as far as this EVs are concerned. Okay. And I'm willing to, make one more time this presentation again. There is no problem because, if people find it interesting, I can do it again, not an issue. Okay. Now, though electric vehicles prevent this greenhouse gas emissions, the social impact of mining is high. Why? See, I told you, there are a few countries in the world from where you're going to get these 3 or 4 important minerals, which ultimately are finding place in your batteries, right? Where do they get their thing? They have to go to the earth, right? They keep on digging, they keep on digging. Over a period of time, even farmland has disappeared. Because once you find lithium, you just keep on scoring for places to find where there is lithium. And over a period of time, a lot of arable land is also being taken over. And finally, it is dug up. Okay, it's dug up to extract cobalt. It's dug up to, so there is a lot of communal issues. So people in Congo are forced to even cross their borders to Zambia just in search of food because all their agricultural crops are all gone. All their agricultural crops have been agricultural land is converted into mining land. Okay, and ultimately it leads to scarcity of food, scarcity of water, physical and mental health challenges, and of course, there is a lot of violence and civil unrest which happens. Secondly, the same thing which happens in other things which we take from the earth again. Anything which is generated from mining cobalt and other metals can pollute the water and air and soil. Obviously, this is something which we know. It ultimately leads to decreased crop yield for a period of time. The entire arable land itself gets zero, becomes depleted because there is no water, because the water gets contaminated, the food gets contaminated. It ultimately, because of mining. Have you ever seen mining places? When you just look at into the internet, places where they mine, you look at the miners and you should really be thankful to them. Their whole body is covered with soot, black soot. Don't even know how they breathe because they have to breathe that black thing again and again. Their hearts, so many lungs are all corroded because of that. It's almost like akin to smoking cigarettes, right? So similarly, this entire thing happens when doing electric vehicles because the working conditions are pretty unsafe and they're very stressful for these people. And sometimes mines, recently there was a mine which collapsed, in one of the countries when almost 30-40 people unfortunately died. Okay. So now this is as far as electric vehicles are concerned. Now let us look at the other important source of power. As I told you, today you have water, hydroelectric power. So you have nuclear fuel. Then you also have the coal thing, which we normally have been doing. Now people are exploring hydrogen as a big power alternative, but that is still some time off. But the heartening thing is that there's a lot of research that is going, into this. Now, what are the concerns with nuclear energy? Firstly, it takes donkey's years to decompose. You can say that it doesn't decompose at all because it takes 3 lakh years to decompose nuclear waste, nuclear radioactive waste. If you look at Chernobyl, if you look at Fukushima, these are things. In fact, there is a very nice documentary on Netflix called Chernobyl, which you should watch. Okay, which is a good thing, which shows as to what exactly happened there and the impact of it still happens, like because of the nuclear bombs which dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Even today, people have deformities, right? So similarly, in case of nuclear, there is a problem with nuclear radioactive thing. It's so radioactive that it just destroys people. Okay, and the problem with disposal is that you will have to close your reactors, and if you have to close reactors, it takes ages. You can't close. For example, I'll give you an example of this country. I think UK. There is one place where they are decomposing this plutonium. Okay, they're just cleaning this plutonium. See, there is only one way you can clean nuclear waste. You can only either lead to new fuel, you can reprocess it, which is a very arduous task. Second thing, you can convert that fuel into glass, vitrified glass. These are the only 2 things possible as far as nuclear fuel is concerned. In UK, there is a place called Sellafield. And in Sellafield, 10,000 persons are employed to clean the nuclear waste. 140 tons. You know how long it will take? At the present rate, it will cost almost $100 billion US. It will take 100 years to clean the existing plutonium. See, what is the other way? What countries do? They just bury deep under the ground. They seal it in cases. and bury deep underground. We don't know what else to do with it. Nuclear waste. So over a period of time, just imagine how much places around you will be buried with waste, right? So this is something which we have to be very, because see, over the last 150, 200 years, 150 years, there are two things that has changed the course of mankind. One, discovery of oil. Second, invention of plastic and polymers. They just completely changed the way we look at each other, we travel. So many things have been changed because of these two things. And while it has made life so easy, pleasurable for all of us, the other flip side is that it has completely damaged the environment, like nothing before. And again, it is just that, we think that we have lived our lives, but ultimately tomorrow our children and our grandchildren and others are going to face the brunt because of all this. Because what happened then is not what we see. Then, in particularly, if you take India, ever since liberalization, see, I remember I was at one point in time, I had to wait 3 years for one landline to be installed in my house. Okay, and we had never bought a two-wheeler then. Only I bought a two-wheeler after so much point in time. At that point in time, there was no invention, nothing great. Pre-liberalization, everything was all, all very staid. Okay. Now, things have changed after liberalization. Last 15 years. Okay, and now nuclear waste is one other thing where, again, as I told you, the US is tried in, there's a Nevada desert in the US where they tried to bury this nuclear waste, but they could not do it because there was a lot of public backlash. Similarly, countries like Germany, UK, Japan also tried. Again, there is ultimately, say, like, for example, where are you going to bury it? You don't bury near my home. Then where else should I bury it? Should I bury near your home? So everyone is going to say, no, why? I will also have the same effects of radiation, right? So don't bury it near my home. So there is a problem, growing problem as to where this nuclear waste is going to be removed. Now, as I told you about COP26, COP actually stands for Conference of Parties. The world's top 26 nations by economy and population, etc. They came together in Glasgow and then they met, and also in Copenhagen. And we have come and we have made a pledge. Like in 2015, we made a Paris undertaking. We have made a pledge whereby we will try to have an importance as far as climate finance is concerned. And we'll also adopt climate pacts whereby we'll ensure we'll bring in reform to reduce, which is why this electric vehicle, etc. is all one way of reducing. But we don't know whether doing one thing, we are not damaging the environment in another way, which is what I was talking about, phasing out of coal and phasing down, etc. So this is all about fuel. Okay. Now, as I was talking about plastic, I'll just give a small tidbit about plastic. We all talk about plastic. We all talk about recycling of plastic. 95% of the plastic is not recyclable. Okay, this is something which you all have to understand. Plastic is not recyclable. It's not that I drink one cup of coffee and then one out of the Starbucks. People go to Starbucks, take that cup. It's not a plastic cup. It is covered with foam inside. Styrofoam is actually the material with which it is made on. It is not decomposable. Okay, when you go stylishly take a cup of coffee from Starbucks and we drink and then we throw it away with the thing that it is going to be disposed. It cannot be disposed in the way you think. Most of the dump which we throw ends up under the ground. It is just thrown. It just results in landfills. It is not easily, sort of decomposable. Of course, there are newer and good ways these things have been put to use, like plastic. The wasteful plastic is being transferred to making roads and other things, but those are all longer processes. They will take time, but as long as we find alternative uses, alternative non-polluting uses or less polluting uses, I should always use the word less polluting, not non-polluting, because there's nothing called non-polluting anymore. Okay. So ESG ratings. Now we come to the other one. Now in the world, whatever happens, there is always someone who wants to make money. Right? It's okay. There is someone who's talking about ethics. There's someone who's talking about social impact, etc. But as far as the ratings are concerned, there's always someone who wants to make money. Now, when you look at ESG ratings, I'm going to give you an ESG rating. I'm going to give the other person an ESG rating. First of all, there is no recognized ESG rating provider around the world. It's just that they are all self-appointed. I have appointed myself as a rating provider. I have my own set of rules. I have my own set of regulations as to what I consider parts of E, S, or G. And I can always remove some, add some according to what I think. So you have MSCI, you have S&P, you have few other big ticket international ones who do this. And we should always take all these things with a pinch of salt. A lot of these things are very opaque. What are the problems with the ratings? There is no standard methodology, as I told you. There are problems with the labor relations are not counted. Many, in case a company does not recognize a union, like recently you have unions in Starbucks, unions in Amazon, and a lot of bigger countries, big companies around the world. Whereas labor relations are not given as much weightage in ratings. Okay, and then we have what is green for you is not green for me. What is green for me is not green for him or her. Okay, that is why there is no standard methodology, which is leading to a lot of issues. And I'll give you a few examples. It's a company called Wells Fargo. I've consciously adopted only international examples here. Wells Fargo is a big lending firm, and it has got it has always had bad ratings because of deceptive practices. Recently, S&P awarded them sustained excellence because just because of its packs with some certain geothermal chains. Now, just see how they have rated it. Similarly, a company called D.R. Horton and Company. It's a construction company. The number of green buildings which have been built by D.R. Horton fell from 3.8% to 3.4% in the past 1 year, but it was upgraded by MSCI, there is Morgan Stanley Capital Index, by citing good corporate behavior. You would look at JP Morgan Chase, it is the largest bank in the world, and they also underwrite a lot of corporate bonds. If you look at it, almost 25% of whatever they underwrite is only green bonds. It has fallen down, but still they have earned more fees. So they are okay with fossil fuel. This, like for example, how many of you watch F1 races? No, Formula 1 races. There are big ticket investors sponsoring, saving Amazon. On the other hand, sponsoring an F1 race. How hypocritical is it, right? There is no point. Do you need an F1 race? When you are going to have pollution by normally driving a car from my office to my home, do I need to spend money on racing? Do I not spending, expunging fuel? Is it needed? So what's the point, right? You can't, there is what do you call as hypocrisy? There's another company called Dollar General Corp. 89% of the revenue of this company comes from carbon intensive projects, and it again went up. But MSCI upgraded it, citing that it has got data protection and international laws. So just see how this company called MSCI went up. They bought a small company called Risk Metrics, the data tool firm. Okay, and over a period of time, it just boosted because the concept of ESG went up. Today, for an ESG fund, the fees charge is almost 5 times the normal fund. Okay, and for example, even BlackRock, for example, charges 5 times when it comes to a ESG aware fund. That is why there is different globally, almost 2 billion fees. It's almost 200% jump as far as the fee is concerned, which is what leads us to something called greenwashing. What is greenwashing? I travel in a Mercedes-Benz SUV. I come here, wear a green shirt, and I say that let us save the planet. That is what is greenwashing. Greenwashing is basically lying by using a different cloak, saying that I'm a good boy, but I'm actually a bad boy. That's what I'm saying. You say that you go ahead with sponsoring F1 races. On the other hand, you say that you save the Amazon planet, Amazon rainforest. So, for example, Pepsi and Coke, they are the largest users of plastic bottles in the world. What have they done, for example, to recycle this? That is another issue. Internationally, as I told you, if you're going to sort of scratch them, convert them into pellets, only 5% of that is recyclable. What exactly is happening to the remaining thing? So British Petroleum, which is one of the largest polluters, there's a huge oil slick in the Gulf of Mexico and other international seas with British Petroleum, where they paid billions of dollars in fines. They just changed their logo into green color. Okay, that is what is known as greenwashing. Now you look at these two cartoons. On one hand, all our people, you must have seen a lot of people who work with us. They say that, okay, let us use the computer to just take printout. How many of us do? Many people use the computer only to take printout. They can't read on the screen. They won't read on the screen. They have tablets, they have iPads, they have all those things. They have phones. They look at the phone all the time. But when I want to correct something, let me take a print because my eyes are better when it comes to correcting. So why don't we transit to that when we know that, see, for manufacturing one ream of A4 paper, 1 tree is cut. If we keep that in mind, we'll be doubly sure, doubly careful about using paper, right? That is another thing. See the second one, the second cartoon, which says that if I want to show that I'm green, let us have green sprinkles, let us have green chocolates, green colored chocolates. Okay, this is what is greenwashing all about. Now, however, internationally, recently when we brought in the consultation paper on green bonds, we have also told the people as to what we will talk about as far as greenwashing is concerned. We are trying to bring some principles, is something which we have said. However, internationally, there are certain guidelines, certain rules and regulations which a lot of big regulators have brought about. As far as ESG rating is concerned, there's a pretty old thing. A couple of years back, this has come. It says that India has a lot to go, though, of course, there are adequate and strong. If you add, there are around 500 odd companies out of 586 which are disclosed. But the below average is around 70 odd companies and weak is around 2. Now, SEBI has a proposed policy. This is still embryonic, still being worked about on who can be rating providers. We have said it should be, you have to be registered with SEBI. And we have also said that MFs or AIF should avail the uses of only SEBI registered ESG providers, and ESG impact ratings can also be there. So this is something which is still being discussed and it is still not become law. Now, let us come to the second portion of today's presentation about the S. What is S? See, man is a social animal. Okay. I work here because of my team. And I have a team up, I have a team down. I report to them, they report to me. I get things done through my team. At home, we all do that. We all have things done. Everything is done because I wear something manufactured by a human being. I wear this manufactured by a human being. I work on a PC which is manufactured by a human being. Or, all these things are where the S thing comes in, the social quotient comes about. So in a corporate terms, the so-called social aspect of ESG is how you're going to manage your labor, your workforce, society in which you're going to operate, social trends, and then politics. How are you going to look at politics? So like I told you recently, you have companies like Amazon and Starbucks, etc., who started recognizing unions because there was it became a Hobson's choice to them to recognize unions. Like what exactly? Like for example, recently you must have heard about US. There are a lot of shootings happening, right? I mean, you have because buying a gun, anyone who's about of age of 18 and age of 21 can buy automated weapons, buy any gun. So Walmart has said that okay, we'll reduce because there are a lot of reduce firearms because there are a lot of schools, shootings in schools, etc. This is one of the measures where I don't know how much it's going to contribute unless you're going to completely take firearms selling away. There's a huge gun lobby in the United States, which has a lot of impact on the policies and decisions that the political parties do. Now, I will give you a few examples as to what exactly do we mean by social aspect of ESG. Now, there is a tribe called Ubuntu in Africa. Now, what is so special about this tribe is this. This tribe, suppose they are running a race. There are 10 people running a race in this Ubuntu tribe. 3 people come 1, 2, and 3. There are 3 people, they stop and they clap till the remaining 7 reach the finishing line, which means they want everyone to win. So, which is why when Linux came out with its first version, which is an open source operating system, they called their operating system as Ubuntu, which is all for each and each for all, everything for everyone. So, social issues are nothing but ensuring that your fellow social person, the fellow person of part of the society, fellow human being also comes up in life. Okay, that is why we have affirmative actions. We have whistleblowing thing, which is, of course, the problem. The flip side with whistleblowing things is that people misuse. A lot of things are subject to misuse, and you have people, in case there are disgruntled people, in case there's a problem, they will write saying that I'm a whistleblower. We have seen in all our companies, many corporate people, we know that they just misuse it. The RTA Act, though 5% of the people are actually genuinely using it, the remaining 95% of us, of the people, of the society misuses it. I can tell you because I am handling being from statutory body, I understand what it is. Secondly, you have this prevention of sexual, amongst minors. You have this, the POXO Act. We have something called the ICC, Internal Complaints Committee, which should be there in every company, right? It's to ensure that there are complaints as far as sexual exploitation, etc. You need to compulsorily have an ICC in case you have 10 people or more in every company. Okay. Then you have specially abled people. Today, if you go to malls, you find ramps. It was not there 10 years back. The reason you have ramps in malls is to ensure that the specially abled people are also able to experience what a normal person is able to explore. Okay, so these are all things, little things which social issues which can sort of ensure that we are able to give everything for everyone. Now, a couple of examples again. In case of the case of Nestle, there was an issue where today, in case of cocoa, we all know that 65% of the world's cocoa production comes from Ghana. And a lot of, almost 2 million children are employed in agriculture. And when this was also brought, a lot of sharp equipment, etc. is used. Okay, in many cases, I don't know whether you know about this whole thing. In case of Belgium, there was this king called Leopold. What he did was he cut off the hands of men, women, and children. And this is a slave trade which happened in Belgium. So these are all things which are all yes, as far as ESG is concerned. Nestle was accused for child labor. What they did, they just paid the households, they paid them off, and they went off. Similarly, there was this company called Orpea, which is a French healthcare home. And there were some 370 nursing homes. There is a huge, they systematically ill-treated or maltreated, mistreated elderly patients, elderly residents. And this came out by a whistleblower. If the whistleblower blew the whistle, there was an article called Grave Diggers. It came in the papers, and then they tried to pressurize them, try to bribe them. But ultimately what happened, that they prevailed and they had to change everything, appoint a consultant and do an investigation, out of which some people had to be thrown out. Now, a lot of people are non-vegetarians, okay, around the world. Most of the world is non-vegetarian. Most of India is also non-vegetarian as opposed to what we think. 15% of the world's carbon emissions comes from something called red meat, okay? And it causes land degradation. So there is a movement around the world to have, plant-based meat. There are companies like Simplicity Foods, Beyond Meat, etc., where even people like Bill Gates have invested. So, and there is something called fake ham. So many things have come about so that they can give an alternative to animal meat. Because as I told you, it causes 15% of the world's pollution. Now it tries to mimic the taste and then texture, etc., etc. This is again gaining attention. Now, always in any life cycle, there are always 5 phases. Where there's an initial surge as far as expectations are concerned. There's a disappointment later. Then finally, you come back with feedback, you change it, you improve the product, and then mainstream adoption. So presently, a lot of plant-based meat burgers, etc., are seeing a double-digit growth in Europe and America. Now, as I told you, you should have a proper carbon footprint. You should ensure that you reduce emissions. You try to use solar energy. That is something where we call as yellow bonds. You borrow for investing in solar energy. Of course, that is still some way away. You can't, like I told you, you can't sponsor Formula 1 and then say that you're conserving the oceans. You can't use vegan leather and use private jets. Recently, there was a lot of shaming against a lot of celebrities who are using this private jets. Okay, you can't ultimately have brands on a dead planet. So this is a very important line which people have to do. Internationally, there are a lot of regulatory trends. India is also a very early adopter. Thanks because of SEBI. We have got BRSR. We have got other things like the green bond, blue bond thing, which I told you, which has happened recently. Okay, these are all things that are gaining traction. But all these things will only end up in disclosure. Okay, but this disclosure will ultimately lead to international investors coming in. Like I remember when we were doing this BRSR thing with our Ministry of Corporate Affairs, I remember what we did when we found that larger companies, we said that, okay, let us impose this on larger companies. We also found in case of small companies, MSMEs, they get their they get their contracts from internationally big companies like Nike, Versace, Victoria's Secret, etc. These people, they come here and they inspect their factories so that they can give contracts. So they ensure that there are no child labor, the conditions are better, women are treated well, there is proper factory conditions, and there are proper working hours, etc. So these people, in fact, these smaller companies comply with ESG much better than larger companies because their ultimate business hinges on these companies giving them the business, these big companies giving them the business. So they ensure that all these things are taken care of, which is why for such companies, we have brought something called the BRSR Lite. However, that is still a part of the report and your companies are free to adopt. I will have to stop here. I have taken 1 hour, but I may have to go for another meeting here, which is why I told Mr. Ramchandra that I have to stop at 1 hour. and I will take questions for the next 5-10 minutes in case you have questions. But then there will be a day when I will try to make a detailed presentation to you. In case you have any questions, I'm willing to answer.
Pradeep, it's a wonderful presentation. I have one question, which is been disturbing me also with all these developments taking place in Ukraine. Yeah. A lot of these environmental and social measures and initiatives that the world has been speaking about for the last 20 years, all that is going to go into disarray now.
Which is why how this is going to be addressed. We found that also a lot of these things happening, the things completely change, which is why the ESG definition itself has changed. Sir, you will be very surprised to know the Western press, you look at Financial Times, you look at The Economist, and you look at a lot of similar Western press, the way they are treating fossil fuels, the way they are treating ESG is completely different now. What is good for the goose is good for the gander is what they talked about at one point in time. Today, it has so happened that they said that, okay, now I need fossil fuel. Okay, I need nuclear energy. So ESG has changed. Nuclear energy has become part of green. So geopolitics has a very huge impact on a lot of these so-called foreign policies.
Thank you, sir.
Sir, Shivram,
Yeah,
how come SEBI be able to control all, at least, or monitor these kind of things when it itself is not unable to do the shares and other private limited companies or limited company affairs or issues? I doubt the SEBI will be able to do this ESG kind of thing. Again,
no. See, this has got nothing to do with SEBI. See, SEBI's over is just 5,000 listed companies. Okay, India has 6 lakh companies. Okay, and companies just one part. It's a lot of other things. And as far as shares or other things are concerned, I don't want to comment on your comment. It is whether SEBI has performed well or not is something which the media, the people, the parliament and others will judge. So that is something which I don't want to comment. But as far as SEBI is concerned, what SEBI has done as far as this ESG is concerned, we have brought in 2 reforms, 2-3 reforms. One is we have been, and in fact, we are the earliest regulators in the world to bring these reforms, if that means something to you. One is what we have said is that we have said that green bonds we have brought in, we are very early. Second, we have brought in the BRR, business responsibility reporting, which means that you as an investor can see where the company was last year, where the company is this year. The BRSR is a significant improvement over the BRR because it contains a lot of metrics, numerical things, metrics, quantitative factors, which were there, which will enable you to compare, which means that I have to show you how much I polluted last year, how much I polluted this year, which will be in result, be a demonstration effect to myself. I myself will look at my progress report and I will know where I stand, which is why these are the things, and BSC ratings is something which I have talked about. So see, it is not about one person, contributing, one regulator contributing. It is about ourselves. When the whole COVID thing broke out, and when we were to go to airports with the RT-PCR, many people went to the software, used a PDF software and changed the date, and then they went ahead with RT-PCR. Who told them to do it? It is just your inner conscience. Today, if there is a red light and there is no one around you, how many Indians waited red lights? Do you need a regulator to tell you that? It should come from within, right? As far as your paper is this is your planet. You don't need a regulator to tell you how to monitor. You don't need a regulator to tell you what to do. All these things will come from within. That's what I believe, and that's what I think all of us should, look at. As far as SEBI is concerned, as I told you, our over is very less, and I believe we have done a fairly decent job as far as this is concerned.
And, one of the points what you said is there can be regulators which SEBI is going to recognize. Is there any room for some kind of regulatory kind of individual regulatory bodies?
So what SEBI has done is we have put out a paper on ESG, but we'll say that in case tomorrow after this whole thing comes into play and we say that certain people only will be allowed to be registered as ERPs, ESG rating providers. So those will be the people whom we have recognized. Otherwise, as far as energy audit and other things are concerned, we don't have a specific recognition process as far as that is concerned. ESG thing we are going to recognize, but it will take some time. But the paper is already out, consultation paper is already out, but we will take some time. But similarly, around the world also, I want to tell you, environmental law has not progressed as much as what we think. what is green for you, what is social for you is not green or social for another person. This is how each of the countries. See, the single biggest thing which is plaguing the ESG thing around the world today is that there is a lack of a single metric which everyone can adopt and say that, okay, so if you look at the SASB, you look at the IOSCO, you look at the OECD, you have so many different private bodies also. Each of them has got their own standard to measure what is ESG. So, which is why that there is an issue as far as measurement of ESG indices is concerned.
Mr. Pradeep,
we
are familiar with what is called social cost benefit analysis.
Yeah.
World Bank used to promote that very extensively. Why can't we integrate that into ESG?
No, essentially, if you look at the BRSR format, it is nothing but a cost benefit analysis for the stockholder as well as for the company. See, we believe, as I told you, SEBI does not have the wherewithal or the knowledge to decide what is ESG, what is green, what is social. We can only say that you disclose. Let the person who invests in you decide whether there is adequate cost benefit and whether there is adequate cost benefit analysis, whether the investing is responsible investing or whether it is not. So what we have done is just create a mechanism. This entire mechanism is in a way, is in a way which sort of shows that this is going to be something on which I am going to base my decisions on. So the cost benefit analysis is something is integrated into the BRSR format. If you look at the BRSR format, it shows you as to why and how all these things are integrated. There are environmental factors and then social factors which integrated this. But we are not going to sit in judgment and say that there is cost benefit. This is something for the investors and the other companies to take into account and decide.
Yes, I think you're
Sir, last one, sir. 1 minute.
Yeah, actually, please, sir, please.
Sir, I do a lot of gig work, and some of the proposals I get it is like this ESG fund energy conferences and ESG related work. I try to dig out a lot of information. And now I have been enlightened by your presentation. Thank you so much, sir. Pradeep, sir.
No, thank you. I'm happy, but this is something which we can discuss longer. Unfortunately, I'm hampered by time because I have to go for a call. Otherwise, I hope this presentation was useful because this is not your normal presentation where you talk only about what SEBI has done. This is something which I believe as citizens of this country, as people of this planet, we need to know, which is the reason why I have culled out information from various parts of media and other places from the internet and other different sources of laws, and I've tried to present.
Yes, I think I really agree with you, sir. I mean, it has been a really wonderful presentation. There are several questions even I wanted to ask, but I probably, since you also mentioned even mechanisms in the sense that I'll come again. I think probably, sir, I think there's a requirement that you have to probably come to. I'm sure the audience also will agree with you and with me also, saying that we'll have one more session probably where probably a little more will be discussed. The metrics, where do we stand in India? What is it we are going to do? What is the real impact? And many countries are polluting. What is happening? And we are looking at them. So several questions are there unanswered. And you have talked so well, sir, in the sense that a sort of a great overview we had. And how exactly each of us have to have a little social responsibility that we have. Empathizing, mostly the simple word is empathizing. Empathizing else, everything else. So probably, I don't know, sir, this I think is a topic which probably has to be developed in a bigger, little more in detail. And maybe we'll request you once again at your convenience to please come again
certainly.
and
I'll be very
continue with this particular session, which probably I think I feel is a little incomplete. Because I think you have to tell us a little more. We want to hear.
No, certainly. There is a lot of, I still have 20 odd more slides, just that because of paucity of time, I have to stop.
Yeah, I know.
But because today, I think we have had almost for 1.5 hours, 1 hour, 15 minutes. But we will try to do a more detailed one. Maybe I hope I'm able to even come directly and do it. So that will be
Thank
even
you,
better.
Sir. Next time when you're in Hyderabad, we can have a personal one-to-one.
Yeah. Certainly.
Right.
Actually, sir, I think I'll request all this audience to please hold our questions for some time because I think he actually promised me to stay only up to 7 o'clock. He already overshot it. He has a meeting, I believe. So I'll take the privilege of thanking you, sir. And it's a great honor to have you here. You have talked non-stop for 1 hour. Absolutely. I think that is really the record. You didn't even have a gulp of water.
Well, thanks a lot for a very patient listening. Thank you so much. And I'm happy with the information and people have been involved. Thank you so much.
It's a great learning experience. I take this privilege of thanking once again to you and all the August audience who are present over here today. And I feel that we will continue to have a relationship with you. Thank you once again, sir. And namaste.
Thank you.
close the session. Yeah.
Thank you.
Karthik, close.